Invitations.
Yes.
I always close this so that you don't get the reverb. Then come over here. My big noggin getting picked up by the owl. Careful with my. Not like you. I'm trying to sit where the owl can make me wiser throughout the trace. A bus driver. I'm gonna go stick my head in the parking lot. It's the owl. Follows. This is the best thing about this. I purchased this. Board meetings and streaming. We're all joking about it. Yeah, so and then I wonder if they funded everything, but it's wrong. Yes. Julie stayed 1 seat away.
Yeah.
I'll be next to the bumper. Goodness, and you have to see it right where we were. You know, that was like a very long time. But you guys Back across the street. Why'd you go to stuff? Looking for something?
They found. I don't know. Where there's a bean and some people in the front row that stops back and speaks edge of the house. It was resting on rice and one right. Never gonna be able to.
It turns out that the original contractor apparently didn't, he must have got just a couple of devices. And all the interior else was done.
All right, everybody, thank you for coming and joining us this afternoon. We know the carpool line's still going, but we will get started to be respectful of your time. If your kiddos need a place to be, they can be with their teachers and academic support right now. We're going to try to work through this conversation within the period of 1 hour, and then we'll have a follow-up conversation on Wednesday, the 16th, if we have additional information to collect and share with the community. We're kind of a tech-free environment, so I want to have a kind of a classic RMSEL circle first to share this information with you. I'm accompanied by Director Angela Christensen from Littleton Public Schools, also serves on the RMSEL BOCES, so she is here as well in support of the amazing work that our teachers and staff do with our kids, and shares in our position of the information that we shared, that communication of being perplexed and shocked by this decision. About 30 minutes in, Lindsay's going to help me by posting an electronic application that will allow you on your device to type questions in that you have, and those questions can be liked up the series of questions and can be retained because our board president, Dr. Olson, is unable to be with us this afternoon. She's at a funeral in Minnesota, and so she would like to engage, and that's a way for her to engage, to get information, and then to consolidate that into a series of next steps for our staff, for our board, and for our legal counsel. To begin, you have the same information that we have as a board, that I have as the executive director. You have the series of events that we received to bring everyone up to speed. Just a quick governance at a glance. RMSEL is unique in that RMSEL founded school choice in the metro community prior to charter schools existing. So this group of educators came together, they brought together our local school districts and said, we'd like to provide this EL option in the community. And that governance model, the quality of education, the excellence that's been provided for the last 30 years, has had that document renewed through a series of renewals, of which most recently were last June. I went back through my communications, made sure that I was communicating with the community, and I shared that that was renewed, shared some of the strategic things that we were looking towards, and shared all of our recorded board meetings with the community. Certainly conversation at that time between the districts of different preferences that they would like to see in the IGA, but at the end of that agreement, all 5 member districts signed on to see this through another 5-year period of time. So as a school staff, as a community, I can say with great confidence in my 12 years of being here, this truly was one of the best starts to the school year we've ever had. You got back to school, our kids got on trips, we have wonderful teachers working with our children. Our sports program has over 100 kids in it. Enrichments are back at 100 kids, academic support every Wednesday. Really truly felt like an amazing time for RMSEL. We're not building things, we're not constructing things, we're just giving back to our community. Your kids did amazing on their standardized achievement results, which once again accredited our organization with distinction. And so when I received this notice on Friday at 3:45, really kind of took me aback that this was even a conversation. And just to recap the series of events leading up to that within the Cherry Creek School District, and just for the public at large here, this is being broadcast live on our YouTube channel and stream, and it is being recorded and retained for maybe someone that asked to view it. So your questions and things will be public record. Cherry Creek held a special meeting with council on Monday, the 24th, which they received counsel regarding our agreement. We were not a part of that meeting. Our board was not a part of that meeting. And then subsequently, we held our board meeting on Tuesday, of which would have been an opportune time to been notified or brought up to speed that there might be a concern in the community or concern that Cherry Creek was considering that they wanted to get out to you as residents or you as parents or our community at large to maybe collect some feedback and some data. And that opportunity didn't happen. And then on Friday in special meeting, post one of their workshops, they convened and voted the resolution that they passed unanimously to withdrawal. So that's the series of events. I don't want to belabor that any further because I think my communication was pretty clear. Our board, myself, our staff had no information that this was transpiring, that this was even on the table. We thought we got through all of that in June. We're here for another 5 years working together and going through the process of renewal at that time. And so where that puts us today, to kind of ease the most immediate concern, is all of your children as Cherry Creek District or Cherry Creek School District residents have a place at RMSEL through the term of their graduation. So nobody is going to be asked to leave a school that they love and care about. There's not going to be some surprise decision. That was written into the agreement in June, that if a district transitioned, all of their kids could stay a part of the school and a part of the governance model up until graduation. What that means is at the time of which Cherry Creek's term on the board or as a part of our governance. So we have this year, and students will enroll with preference for next year. We have next year where students will enroll with preference. And at the end of June, or on June 30th, 2024, they will no longer be a member of the BOCES. And so therefore, after that 24-25 enrollment season, then Cherry Creek residents would no longer have a preferred access seat to RMSEL. And what that means is Cherry Creek seats 100 up to 110 students at RMSEL every year. And those residents get priority to those spots before they can go to another district or before they can go out of district. Inglewood, Sheridan, Jeffco, others. We historically fill all of our seats within our 5 districts, except in high school where we have some vacancy, of which we've had some students from Inglewood, Sheridan, Jeffco, homeschool options come in and be a part of the RMSEL community. Because what we're always trying to do is reach a target enrollment of 400 students every year. That's how we pay our staff. That's how we keep our lights on. That's how we pay the bond for the renovations that we put into place. And we continue moving forward as an organization. So I'll pause right there and maybe stop and see if anybody has historical clarifications or process questions before I move to the next step.
Did you say that the Cherry Creek School Board met at a workshop and rendered this decision?
They called a special meeting on the same day as their workshop.
And what are the notice requirements for the Cherry Creek School Board?
Notice requirements are the sunshine laws of 48 hours in advance. And so I don't know when that meeting was scheduled. Like if they scheduled it Wednesday for Friday, they would be within the sunshine law requirement of meetings being posted.
Okay, that's the last of my board meetings we were making, but I just wanted to, think about, feedback I didn't check.
I don't believe that the Cherry Creek School District has procedural legal missteps in the manner in which they went about scheduling their meetings or posting to the public site or writing resolutions. The misstep is no one in this room knew any of this was going on. So posting it to board docs, you fulfill your requirement, posting it to your website, posting your meeting dates, all of those pieces. I don't think there's a procedural error here, so to speak. It's the process error of these are our kids. And these kids love their school, these kids love their community, and Cherry Creek is one of our 5 partners that has limited options for students that might need an educational alternative. Other districts have some EL options. Denver has some school choice options. Ducko has some school choice option. Littleton, being one of our smaller partners, has some charter options. But when we think about our students, and not to make this indifferent between our kindergartners to up to our high schoolers, a typical traditional high school with 4,000 students is very different than a small learning community with 100 kids. Kindergarten is pretty similar across kindergarten places, a lot of play, a lot of love, a lot of caring, a lot of inclusivity and embracing one another. But to think about some of our students in our secondary grades being in an environment with 1,600 kids in a middle school or 3,000 kids in a high school is not what you have sought for your kids as parents of this community.
I have a question, Chad, because next year we'll be overseas, so we just will be able to
So you'll leave in the enrollment cycle of next year,
So next school year.
you would be gone, so you would not. No, you would be applying in January for the last year of preference.
But you, for the kids who are Cherry Creek student or Cherry Creek district, they can stay for graduation, no new kids can enter after that date. How will those students, let's say they stay for graduation, be funded?
So all of our students, your students get enrolled in our Board of Cooperative Education Services. So there's 3 other entities that function like us in operating schools. And so the funding mechanism is we then enroll all of your children in one of those 5 school districts. And we always enroll them in Denver, because when we enroll them in Denver, we get the highest PPR under the finance formula. So it's advantageous for us for funding to do that. So we'll enroll students as open enrollment into Denver Public Schools, and then we will get funded as a pass-through from the Department of Ed with Denver's PPR number.
So no funding is necessarily changing, it's more access.
Correct.
What if, schools and governors sit like, what was the situation with that?
So that I think is a good transition to the next piece of what needs to be figured out in the event that Cherry Creek would elect to uphold this decision. You as constituents of the district and others have the right to communicate with them and receive some type of dialogue, interchange, explanation regarding this, because I think that's what we're all missing right now that makes this very challenging. So that's like first and foremost, Cherry Creek could come together as a board, review this and say, whoa, we made a misstep. We're human beings and serving, we serve in a large district. We didn't collect community input. We understand that our residents are supportive and pleased, and they could say, no, let's write a resolution to withdraw this, and they could stay in till the term of 2027 and then consider that. What Director Christensen, myself, Dr. Olson, and our legal counsel are compelled to do over the next 90 days is put together a series of options of what that means for enrollment moving forward. So right now, Cherry Creek makes up 30% of our total school enrollment every year. And we have students on a wait list from Cherry Creek still. So there are still interested parties from Cherry Creek versus our Douglas County district that exited the IGA. They had 11 kids. They've never been full in my 12 years of tenure here. They were transparent with their residents. They offer 2 EL schools in their community. It was a logical time for that to transpire and take place. This one impacts so many more families, so many more residents, so many more residents close to us that are seeking this as an alternative. So what that means is our partners right now, Denver, Littleton, and Aurora would make up 280 of our preferred slots of seats, opening 120 slots for us to figure out what to do next. We have to put together a series of options. And then once we put together those series of options, we would bring that to the RMSEL community at large to say, can you provide us feedback on these? There's going to be a lot to consider in those options. Siblings, do we go to open enrollment? Do we pursue another district partner? I use Inglewood, Sheridan, Adams 14, Jeffco as the other districts that border us. But I also think it's if you're there's a lot of news out there, but Ed News is my line of business. We're in declining enrollment. We have gentrification in the metro area. All these districts are losing students, birth rates are down. And so bringing someone in might not be a logical partnership. Opening these spots to our 3 preferred partners first might be an option. Extending them, our district partners saying, hey, we're Denver Public Schools residents, and we know on the news right now that they're looking at 10 schools consolidations and 4 closures. They're not really looking for other students to be displaced or moved around. So do we put those into open enrollment, which we can do under Colorado revised statute? You can enroll your kids in any district in the state under revised statutes. You just have to go to their Department of Enrollment and say, hey, we're from Inglewood, but we'd like to go to Cherry Creek. Can we enroll? And they put you through a process to go about doing that. So there's a series of options that we have not even started that exploration of yet, of what happens next.
So just to clarify, Chad, there is no changing in the funding that, do you receive funding from Cherry Creek? Have this changed funding at all?
We receive no funding from Cherry Creek. And we don't receive funding from DPS. Your children, sorry that it sounds like accounting 101, are a per pupil revenue item no matter where they go. So if they enroll in Littleton counts them, gives that to CDE, and they get a dollar amount for each child enrolled. So your child, no matter where they are, represents a dollar figure of which they're counted in. We just count your kids in Denver because they get more funding than our other 4 partners. So no district has any kind of stake in the funding game. Like, we are independent of our districts funding wise. We are an entity. We pay all of our bills independent of that. We lease this building independent of that. It's what put us in the situation to go get the best grant, because we can't tax you again, as you've already been taxed, but we can't go through the series of doing that. So that's why we had to go through that grant process. We had to go get private equity and take out debt. But we do all of that as the BOCES entity doing business as the Rocky Mountain School Expeditionary Line. So I think this is a good pause because we're kind of in Q&A. So I'm asking everybody, if you would like to participate in this, you can either come to my computer screen or that presentation and download this, or not even download. You just have to scan the QR code, and then you can start typing these questions in so we can retain them. So if you want to come to this screen and scan that, you can, or you can walk up on the stage and grab it.
So Chad, to boil down that funding thing, it's really just that DPS serves as a pass-through mechanism to get funding from the state.
Correct.
Yeah, there, come on.
So Chad,
Everybody good? All right, now, yep, you good? And now it's going to go to this. What do I do? This right here? No, I go to this one, right? Yeah. And then I go to this one. Right? Oh, present. That's what it is. Was it not working? Yeah, if somebody sends in a question, it'll log it. All right, I'll let you sit there. Got it. Okay, so back to Q&A. Okay, perfect. That's great. And all your questions come through as anonymous and get retained. And that little thumbs up button, if everybody wants to know more about that question, click on that like, and it'll generate it to the top of the question screen. Okay, so back to where we were. We talked about funding. Being independent, we have no audited financial concerns. All of our financial transparency is posted on our website, so we are not in default of our debt to our bond. We have no concern with enrollment with our bond holders. We have, we pay all of our staff, all of our, EAs, our support staff, adventure staff. Your fees pay for those restricted items, which I was asked to go collect information on Tuesday. So thank you if you filled out that survey, but those fees pay for those restricted items. They can't be reallocated within our budget annually. So funding is not a concern outside the fact that Colorado is generally underfunded as compared to our peers across the nation. put my plug in, I just want to be Bloomington, Indiana, they get 12.5 a kid and get 9,500 a kid. I'd be okay with being a small Midwestern town.
But at least we're not Mississippi.
So, all right. Okay. Great. So other questions you have, I'm not going to try to track these. I'm just going to kind of retain those for the board and us to have our next workshop session on. So questions from the group for dialogue.
What is the advantage of Cherry Creek and Douglas County withdrawal? If it's not funding, why do they withdraw and take people to get from this?
I don't believe there's any benefit. And I think the challenge is, if we would have gotten some type of advance notice, or the community would receive some type of advance notice that, you know, we've done a demographic review of the students within the Cherry Creek School District, and we know most of your kids live within the Hollies, which is the small sliver of District A over here on the other side of Evans. You're drawing down our enrollment, and our school at the Hollies could be a potential of some type of default. But we don't have any of that information, and I think that's what continues to be the most challenging for us.
Can I type in here?
And they've been signaling this for years. This was not a surprise. Cherry Creek is a complete and utter surprise.
And for Douglas County, it's long.
It's a long run.
It's a long.
That's true,
It's
yeah.
a big commitment.
Like if you do.
But I will reiterate, there is no document, no scaling, no feedback, anything of some type of plus delta. Like there was no delta for a Douglas County family to get to come and participate. Douglas County was not, our student achievement wasn't getting counted against theirs, funding wasn't getting counted against theirs. There's no mechanism other than
Oh, wait, check my question.
providing that opportunity for Douglas
Thank you,
County.
Bill. Sorry.
I mean, my kids are Douglas County, but I understand we drive an hour with that search list, but Cherry Creek, there's so much, and it's just, there's no benefit to them. What's the point of restricting their residents?
Has the interest in RMSEL increased significantly in recent years?
Chris, I mean, you did 2 years for me the other day for data information. Has our numbers from Cherry Creek went up significantly?
I don't think it's changed significantly. I only looked at the last 2 years, but they were both pretty comparable.
So I mean, like I said, 117 kids currently enrolled from Cherry Creek. 58 kids attempted to come last year. 18 kids still remain on a wait list. So there's interest. You know, it's not growing, but it's not declining. And we, as an entity, for those of you who've been here for my 12 years of tenure here, we don't have an advertising budget, and we don't spend your kids' PPR dollars on advertising. We don't have a social media campaign. We don't send mailers. We don't go to school fairs. We have truly attempted to partner with our districts as that we are an educational alternative, not a competitor, because there are charter networks out there that have opened 6, 7, 8 schools, and then they've got an enrollment coordinator and a advertising manager and a marketing director. That's not us. You know, I can't say that maybe that would have been a good decision 6 years ago to try open 3 more RMSELs, but that's never been our vision. Our vision has always been, how do we serve this community the best that we can? And so we've never had enrollment fluxes. We've never said, well, let's go get 800 kids, or let's go get 900 kids, or let's go second campus.
Was Cherry Creek invited to come today, or did they decline?
There was no formal invitation to come, but our BOCES board received the communication that was drafted and sent out with notice.
So they could have.
Sure. It could be watching in digital.
there other EL schools in Cherry Creek?
There are no other EL schools in Cherry Creek. Cherry Creek has 3 non-traditional choice options. One which has been established for an extended period of time in the Cherry Creek Academy, which is a K-8 charter school. And then they have 2 upstart charter schools within the last few years, Heritage Heights Academy and there's one that partners with Wings Over the Rocks.
Do you foresee this trend moving with other school districts?
And that was a question that I asked of Director Christensen and Dr. Olson on Monday. And I said, from a position of ethics and integrity, I have to sit before a community that I care about and love, that I've dedicated over half of my career to. If this is some nefarious thing, that we have something going on behind the scenes, that we're attempting to close the school or to relinquish control of the building, I need to know that. And their guarantee to me was that that has not transpired. They don't intend for that to transpire. The next step is to lay out these options for us to continue to move forward.
In this period of declining enrollment, do you consider that there are good candidate districts to replace Cherry Creek? And I know that's speculative.
I mean, I think that will come to the table of options, but that would then require their school board to vote to enter into a partnership with us. And I would just say, from the current climate of demographics, I think it would be hard for any school board to say, oh yeah, we want to jump on board and we'll give you 100 seats. I could be wrong, because we haven't asked yet, but I'm sure that will come to the series of options that will be on the table.
Okay, thank you.
How would compare to like Cherry Creek, Denver, as far as like they all like associated with standardized testing, performance? They give any indication that that's the.
And that's, I think, what goes back to this series of events of how this transpired. We got no notice of concern. We got no opportunity to rectify some breach of contract. And so the BOCES is a contract between the 5 districts that allows us to operate. So if something would happen, you know, I think the big panel to knock on, like, you let uncertified bus drivers drive your kids. We had 3 accidents within Colorado National Monument where buses fell off the side of the cliff, and you were not allowing, you didn't properly maintenance things, and we have a concern that you were operating a unsafe place. We have no financial concerns. We are out achieving in many ways neighborhood district schools. We're accredited with distinction. We don't have a gap between our white students and our non-white students when it comes to achievement, because this is an inclusive organization where we have one grade level of language arts happening, or math, or so forth. And so I can't give you a tangible, you know, that I've been contacted or one of our directors has been contacted with, you know, we've received this, you know, notice of filing of civil litigation or harassment or safety, or we have nothing that informed this decision. I did just transparently have a conversation with our board member from Cherry Creek, and during that conversation didn't get any further than we were with what I shared with you in the letter. Shared that Cherry Creek's interest was to move in an alternative direction. I said, can you expand upon that a little bit? And we didn't get any further than where we were. So you know, certainly I think that's what we're still seeking as an institution. Our board is interested in, and you as residents and parents kind of care the most about. And at the end of the day, care the most about that your kids get to go to a school that they love, that's been a positive community for.
Did Cherry Creek indicate they would contact Cherry Creek parents who are?
We have not received any notice of request of your demographic information. And in the event that we would receive that, I would want to have a conversation with our council, because you've elected not to be in their district. So to release your name, address, phone number, email information, I think there would need to be some type of disclosure so that you knew that that was happening.
But they can draft a community letter that you accept, right?
Correct. And we would amicably participate. I mean, they were the founding district 30 years ago. And they led the charge with PVC. It was Denver, Cherry Creek, and PVC, and then they went out and recruited other districts to be members of the innovation that was happening.
What do you think is the most effective way for the parents to approach Cherry Creek schools? To let them know our concerns?
I believe that you have the communication access with the emails that I share. You know, you're certainly allowed to call the district as a citizen and concerned resident and concerned partner of the district, which is what we've been for a long period of time. What I do ask or request is we do it in the way that we do everything else. We are thoughtful, we are compassionate, we are an understanding group, even when we're emotionally frustrated. We do it professionally. Like when our kids went out to protest a couple years, I said, "Look, go call your mom, get permission to go protest, and spell the words on your sign correctly. If you don't spell the words on your sign correctly," I said, "you're going back to class." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so I use that as a you know, when we communicate, which I know many of you, most of you in the room will, you know, it's a professional dialogue that we're seeking some type of interchange and explanation. You know, if we're standing outside the district's office pounding on the door, and then they're going to send somebody over because we're yelling and cursing and security gets involved, I don't think we get our message received the same. So I would say reach out. You have our board representative from Cherry Creek, their full board, and their superintendent, and you know, ask as many questions as you can, seeking some type of response.
And serving on a board, I know the communication that Chad sent that had the CCSD, the whole board's email, that will make it to all of them. And so that's probably your best route to make sure that they all hear that. And I know in our district that goes to our superintendent as well. So I would assume it goes to their superintendent. And then you're also, by law, you can go and give public comment at their board meetings to make your voices heard. And I don't know the date of their next board meeting.
Their next board meeting is Monday, November 14th.
Yeah, so that's another option that you can do that. And then, you know, their documents are out there, but you're also welcome to file a CORA request, Colorado Open Records Act, if there's any documents that you want in addition.
Can you go over a little bit more the implication, if there is any, to the bond? So when that was all signed, Cherry Creek was a part of the BOCES that is responsible for, right, supporting that effort. What happens now that they're going away? Does that impact that bond?
So
And I realize that may not.
yeah, no, we signed a limited engagement letter with our bond counsel to come back on and work with us to further explain that. Our bond counsel is going to meet with Julie and I next Wednesday morning to explain that process. And if Cherry Creek, Douglas County, or others would have any type of longstanding contractual obligation to fulfill that financial debt by staying a member of the contract. So with that, we have how much debt? $7.5 million of debt still to be repaid against the renovations that we put in place. Because the process of that was we released this building for 30 years. And then when we went out to Best is a matching grant. So they gave us $4.5 million free and clear. And then we had to come up with the $7.5 million match to fulfill the totality of the project. Because we aren't sitting on $7.5 million. We went out to private equity bond investors and received a series of bonds that we have to pay over a period of 30 years that were tied to the lease term at a rate of about 4%, which is really good based on. things that are happening today. 28, yeah. And no, I mean, we came to you all as parents, for those of you that were here as members of that time, that we had the major fee increase at that time, scared that this is how we're gonna offset these accounts from teachers so that we can offset about 40% of that bond payment annually. And then we assumed the rest of it from our PPR so that we could make this happen for our kids. So, you know, it's good stuff, like middle school classrooms, our 4-5 classrooms, our 6th grade classrooms, our art studio, makerspace, you know, was certainly necessary. We didn't increase enrollment by doing that. We simply said 100-year-old elementary school probably needs spruced up a little bit. But it was leaking in the basement today, and so it's still an old school.
So Chad, how are you doing? Mr. Burns?
I'll use the same line I used on Monday morning. I've had better weeks. But I think my closing remarks in my letter to you still keep us driven on what we need to do. You know, most elementary schools were in a series of chaos on Monday with Halloween, and our teachers did an amazing job. And I saw our 2-3 kids going around with their little boo ghosts that they were taping to other teachers' doors, and they were doing it sneaky and quiet, and they wore their costumes for an hour and a half. And you know, we just last week rebooked our sailing contract for 5th grade. So surprise, and try to go sailing again. And so it felt like so many good things were falling back into place, looking at planning our civil rights trip again, getting back to being the school that we've always been in this post-COVID period. We've got great people working with your kids that need intervention and support. It has felt like a really nice transition. You know, kudos to Lindsay, who's stepping in to be an administrator this year. Same to Jesse, you know, new faces, fresh blood, you know, enthusiasm to work with your kids. So I think that's how I'm doing. I'm just gonna keep coming to school, and school's a great place to be, and kids make it a special place. Well, most of it. So I wish I had further answers and information. Like I said, we're going to meet with that bond council on next Wednesday morning, and then we have another one of these forums on the 16th. If I have information to share with the community, I will. If you want to stop back by at that 16th meeting just to see if there's any additional information, we'll save these series of questions to share with Dr. Olson when she returns for leave, and we'll continue planning and moving forward.
So do you have any advice for us as parents in the community as far as how to communicate with students? Like, is it better to go to a meeting and talk publicly, or is it better that every single person sends a letter, one big letter about the same?
I mean, I think it's all things considered. You know, it's group representation, I think, is optically scaling for school boards. You know, I think, you know, children are probably going to want to stay for the duration of the school board, but if you have secondary age kids, it's a nice opportunity to learn the process of local control, civic engagement. You know, it's also a nice opportunity to say, you know, here's Alton, and he's important, and he's coming along with me, and we care about this place. And so, you know, I think all of those things are good practices and strategies. And I think, you know, there's, I think, a series of requests. We would like to be more informed if there's something we didn't know as a community